What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another UFC breakdown and predictions video, this time for UFC Vegas 100. We've hit the century mark for UFC Apex cards, and it's a nice little milestone. I'm excited to be a part of it by breaking down this specific card. Now, it's not the most coveted UFC card ever put together, but there's some decent matchups, and a Saturday with UFC fights is always better than a Saturday with no UFC fights. I'm sure you guys can agree with me on that one. Now, we are coming off of a terrible UFC Edmonton event where I ended up going 7-6 on picks. You can argue that I should have went 9-4 because of some sketchy decisions, but I'm not going to get into it. Our bets didn't do very well either, but one positive I can take from that UFC Edmonton event is we cashed another most confident picks parlay. In the last 4 events, we've hit this parlay in 3 of those 4 and are up 3 units just on that particular play alone. And if you're not familiar with what the most confident picks parlay is, it is simply what the title suggests. It is a parlay with my most confident picks. Last week, it was Yusuf Zalal, Mike Malott, Jasmine Jasudavicius, and it cashed with ease. That's something I'm proud of. We're building a solid play that is consistent, that we can bet on every single event. Now, if you guys want access to that and my other bets, make sure to follow me on Twitter. I tell you guys this every breakdown and predictions video. Limpy bets, 2 Y's at the end of Limpy. Just follow me on Twitter. You'll get access to my bets, my most confident picks parlay that's been absolutely killing it. And I put a confidence level for each pick as well, high, medium, or low confidence before every event. So make sure you follow me there for access on the bets, the confidence level for the picks, and yeah, that's going to be my intro rant. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and comment down below what you think of this UFC Vegas 100 event. Let's kick things off by breaking down Tresean Gore versus Antonio Trocoli. Now, Tresean Gore has no business being as big of a favorite as he is. I don't know exactly at this moment in time what the odds are, but from what I remember, he's almost a 2-1 favorite, and I don't think he has any business being that wide of a favorite against somebody like Antonio Trocoli. Both of these guys are lower level. We all know the middleweight division isn't stacked with all of this talent, but these guys are like bottom of the barrel. I'm not trying to hate on them, not trying to shit on them. They're not very good. We have Tresean Gore, who only has 6 pro MMA fights, and he hasn't fought in over 2 years. Let me check when his last fight was. Josh Fremd in October of 2022. It's been over 2 years since he's been in the octagon, and his latest win is Josh Fremd. That's his only UFC win. His 2 losses, Brian Battle. I'll give him a pass on that. Battle is an absolute savage. But then he got knocked out by Cody Brundage. How can you guys... I don't understand how a guy that got knocked out by Brundage is a 2-1 favorite. And then he like forced guillotine choked Josh Fremd. That was an insane choke. I will give him that. But since then, he's pulled out of the Bo Nickel fight. Tore a wrist ligament, it says. That fight was supposed to be July 2023. Then he was supposed to fight AJ Dobson back in February, where he injured his shoulder. So on top of the fact that he's very green in MMA, only has 6 pro fights, he's not very good to begin with. He's been battling injuries for the past 2 years. Hasn't fought in those 2 years either. Now he's going up against somebody like Antonio Trocoli, who isn't really the best in terms of a skill set, but I would favor him over Tresean Gore any day. Tresean Gore can also be a little bit low volume and not really active. He like sits there in front of his opponents and stares at them. Trocoli, on the other hand, he's coming off of that beatdown by Sharon Magomedov back in June, but that was extremely short notice. It was like on a week's notice. He had to fly across the world, still made weight like a pro, like a professional, and then got beat up by Shara, who turns out is a pretty good fighter. I know I was shitting on him in the Petrosian because I picked Petrosian, but Shara proved himself, and I'm going to give him a pass, honestly. Trocoli I'm speaking about, for losing that fight. The size and length, I think, is going to be a big problem for Tresean Gore. Yes, Trocoli did gas out in the Shara fight, but like I said, a week's notice. Across the world, still made weight. There's just a lot of things, and I'm going to have to favor Antonio Trocoli in this matchup. I just don't think Tresean Gore is very good. I don't think Trocoli is very good either. But I'll pick the fighter that's been in the cage more recently against a great competition. And I'm going to pick against the guy who's injury riddled, has been knocked out by Cody Brundage, and need I say more? Need I say more? I'm taking Antonio Trocoli as the underdog. I think that's just the pick. It has to be. Next up, we got Cortavius Romious going up against Gaston Balanos. Now, Cortavius is one of 2 Dana White's Contender Series fighters, I believe, making their debut on this card. Sneak peek, I'm probably going to parlay them together. Hopefully, it gives us plus money. That's always the goal when you're parlaying two pieces together. But I think I'm going to. Because Cortavius Romious, people are going to say, he's chinny. He got knocked out by Ramon Tavares. Dude, low-key, Tavares is pretty good on the feet. He's got power. And Romious was sucked into a brawl because he's on the show, trying to get a contract, this, that, and the other. Anyway, he got knocked out in less than 30 seconds. Okay, not a good look. But then he goes on to the regional scene, gets an armbar win in 50 seconds, and then he comes back onto the show and defeats a 12-6 fighter, which isn't the greatest, but defeats him in dominant fashion over 3 rounds. Didn't get overzealous, didn't put himself in danger like he did in that Tavares fight, and that shows a lot of growth. I'm pretty sure he switched teams and all this stuff they were saying on the show as well, because everybody abandoned him after he lost the Contender Series contract. So it's really cool to see him pick himself back up, find a new squad, get back on track, and now he's making his UFC debut, and he's taking on somebody like Gaston Balanos, who doesn't really have a lot going for him in terms of skills. Yes, he's a decent striker and he's got lots of power, but beyond that, that's all he really has. Cortavius, on the other hand, is going to be the more well-rounded fighter. He can throw hands with Balanos. He may lack, Romious still has decent power as well. Balanos you can favor in the power department, but beyond that, I don't think he's better anywhere. Romious can hang on the feet, can touch up Balanos. Yes, he's a little bit smaller, but he can find success on the feet, and I can trust him to go for those takedowns where Balanos has shown he has struggled in the past. So Balanos also, if he can't find that success on the feet, he's just going to keep trying the same thing over and over, not really mix it up. And I just don't think somebody like Romious is going to allow him to land those big shots and really get going on the feet. I think, like I said, I can trust Romious to go for those takedowns and possibly find a submission. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up submitting Balanos, but Cortavius Romious will be my pick. Let's move on to the next fight. We have another UFC debuter, but it is not from the Contender Series. We have Claudia Sygula taking on Melissa Mullins. Now, Melissa Mullins has that wrestling style. She's gonna come forward, push the pace, try to get you down and ground and pound you while you're on the mat. That's basically what she wants to do. Now, she hasn't really found the most success. She did take on Irina Alexieva in her UFC debut back in October last year, but Alexieva she had a lot of hype behind her because she submitted Stephanie Egger so quickly in her UFC debut, but she's more of a submission or bust kind of fighter that isn't really very good. And Melissa Mullins exploited her by staying safe and not getting submitted. But in terms of striking, Melissa Mullins isn't very good in that department. She got finished by Nora Cornell, which is if you want to be anything in the UFC, you probably shouldn't be getting finished by somebody like Nora Cornell. She's not very good. Anyway, that's going to be Melissa Mullins' game plan. Now, Claudia Sygula, I did watch a couple of fights, and I was thinking I was going to pick Melissa Mullins this whole time, but honestly, I think I'm going to go with Claudia. Yes, this is short notice for her. Melissa Mullins was supposed to take on Montserrat Rendon, I'm pretty sure, but Rendon pulled out, and in comes Claudia, who actually hasn't fought in a year and 2 months, which I did not know until just now. Even though I've been on her Tapology page multiple times, regardless, I watched her fights, and even though she's not the most refined and most polished on the feet, I actually give her the striking advantage. Like, technique-wise, she's not the best, but I do favor her on the feet. When it comes to grappling and the wrestling, she can kind of play that guard game and stay on her back, throw up some submissions, which is obviously concerning because somebody like Melissa Mullins, you're probably not going to submit off of your back, and if you give her that opportunity, she will keep you on the mat, land her own ground and pound, and probably just wear you down and eventually get the win. Claudia Sygula also has decent top game on the mat. She has some brutal ground and pound as well that I've seen, but I don't think Melissa Mullins is going to be able to bully her in the wrestling for the entire fight. Like I feel like a lot of people think. Claudia does struggle with like getting judo flipped with like a headlock, but Melissa, that's not really Melissa Mullins' style of getting the takedowns, and Claudia can actually work in some trips of her own when she clinches up with her opponents. So I don't think it's going to be as dominant of a wrestling performance on the Mullins side. I think Sygula can hang on the feet. I think she's actually the better striker. I think she can hang on the mat. Maybe Mullins finds that success early, but I actually like the fact that Sygula, I've seen a couple of her fights that went to the third round, and she doesn't seem to slow down. She keeps the pace the entire time. She walks forward, putting pressure on her opponent. So I actually like... I gotta stop saying actually. I do like her in this matchup to upset Mullins. I'm assuming Sygula's the underdog. I'm not 100% sure, but I just don't think Mullins is that good. I've spent so much time breaking down these first three fights. Let's keep going. We got Cody Stamann taking on Blackshear. Now, Cody Stamann is a UFC vet at this point. The guy's 35, I believe, and he has 14 fights in the UFC. He's had a kind of a mixed bag of success and failure. He's 7-6-1, and in his last 5, he's 2-3, as you guys see. His last 2 losses, though, they're to decent competition. Douglas Silva de Andrade, who is also another UFC vet, and then he loses to Taylor Lapilus, who I hold in high regard. I think Lapilus has the tools to actually go far in this division. Now he's taking on Blackshear, who is coming off of a brutal 18-second knockout against Montel Jackson. That's the kind of knockout that'll change you. 32 years old. I don't think Damon's never been finished before that point, so you don't know how he's going to approach this fight. We just saw Mike Malott at UFC Edmonton take that approach where he went on the mic and said, sorry that I couldn't get the finish, guys. I was really just focusing on getting back into the win column. So I'm not saying that Damon's going to approach the fight like that, but you never know if he's going to be a little more hesitant to get into those striking exchanges. You don't know if he's going to be actively looking for a finish. And if you guys watch my videos, you'll know that those are the kind of fighters I want to pick and bet on, and not the ones that want to just ride it out and hope the judges give him the win. So it's going to be interesting to see. All in all, skill-wise, I do actually think Damon is the better fighter. Basically everywhere. There's going to be a huge size advantage, as you guys see, in height and in reach. So it's going to be interesting to see if he kind of plays that long game. But one knock I kind of have on Cody Stamann is not that he's like a points fighter, but he always seems to let the fights get away from him, and he gets upset when he doesn't get the wins or the decisions in his favor, but he never really like amps it up. He never really turns up in his fights and starts to push and kind of like guarantee rounds. He'll kind of just go through the motions and let the fight happen to him, if that makes sense. Somebody like Damon is going to be opportunistic. I think he's going to land those takedowns. He's going to use his range to avoid any power shots from the Stamann side. And I think he'll mix in the wrestling very well. Even though Stamann, I think, has a decent takedown defense. Let me see here. 76% takedown defense, actually. And 37% takedown accuracy for Damon Blackshear. So yeah, I don't think Damon's going to be able to like ragdoll Stamann anyway, but I do think he works in the wrestling, stays at range, and avoids any big power shots. It's just going to be interesting to see how he approaches this fight after getting knocked out for the very first time in brutal fashion as well. Jackson put him out cold. I will go with the Blackshear here, though. Let's continue up the card. We got Charles Radtke going up against Matthew Semelsberger, and this is actually low-key a great fight. I keep saying actually again. This is going to be a banger. Charles Radtke is a gamer. The guy moves forward, he throws heavy, and he's constantly in your face. He wants to put you out. He wants to take you down, beat you up on the ground. And that's what he's going to keep doing. 17-3. What? Unbelievable how unprofessional I am right now. Unbelievable. We're just going to pretend like his record was 9-4 right here the whole time. Anyway, Charles Radtke, absolute dog. I've kind of been a Charles Radtke doubter. I picked against him against Blood Diamond, even though we know that was a close fight. I picked him against Blood Diamond. I apologize. I did not pick him against Gilbert Urbina, and he slept Urbina in that first round. I picked Carlos Prates against him when there was a lot of people actually screaming good dog on Charles Radtke in that fight, and I don't blame them because he is an actual dog. He's going up against Matthew Semelsberger, who hasn't had the most success. He's 11-7. The guy's a decent striker, but he is hittable. He's chinny at times, and he can get taken down. And that's how he's kind of like he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's 1-4 in his last 4 or 5. Lost to Preston Parsons, I'm pretty sure because of a heavy wrestling game plan. I'm going to double check because I don't want to spew false. Preston Parsons, 7 times he took him down. 7 times. The fight before that, Uros Medic, that was actually a fantastic back and forth fight, but he ended up getting slept in that 3rd round. The fight before that, Jeremiah Wells, he knocked down Jeremiah twice in that fight, and somehow Wells survived and still took him down 6 times and outstruck him, okay? So it's just something to keep in mind. He got outboxed by Alex Morono, okay? He got outstruck by Morono, 106-74. This is a long way of saying that I'm just going to go ahead and pick Radtke because I think Radtke basically just outdogs him. I think he lands the better shots throughout this fight. I think he's just going to be constantly in Semelsberger's face, just wearing down on him. I think he's going to clinch up, drag him to the mat, beat him up, and I think I'm not going to go as far to say as a KO finish, but I wouldn't be surprised if Radtke landed that hard shot that put Semelsberger down and then followed up, or even just ground and pound finished him. So I will take Charles Radtke here. Chuck Buffalo. Chuck. To get this done. Next up, we got Mansour Abdul-Malik taking on Duško Todorovic. Now, Mansour is the other Dana White's Contender Series fighter that is making their UFC debut. I picked against Mansour in his fight on the Contender Series against Wesley Schultz. The reason why I did that was he only had first-round finishes up until that point, and we've seen a ton of these prospects just come in, absolutely obliterate their competition in the first round, and then get up against somebody that can kind of weather that early storm, and then we see those fighters that have been so dominant kind of gas. And I saw Wesley Schultz. I watched his tape. The guy is a dangerous fighter as well, and he's got that cardio. So I favored Schultz in that fight. Silly me. Mansour does have a fantastic gas tank. He's able to put that wrestling pressure. He is so physically dominant in his fights as well. And he finished Wesley Schultz in that second round. He beat Wesley Schultz up pretty badly in that fight. Mansour's got decent striking. He's got power in his hands. He's a very physically imposing guy that can take you down, drag you to the mat, beat you. Like, his ground and pound is absolutely brutal as well. And he's going up against Duško Todorovic, who he's more of a striker, I feel like. I know he kind of has like a sneaky ground game, but he is mainly a striker. And in this particular matchup, even though Mansour will have the size advantage, he is taller and much rangier than Duško. I think Mansour's best bet in this fight is don't entertain those striking exchanges as much. Yes, Mansour does have the power advantage probably in this fight, and if he lands big on Todorovic, I think he can put him away. But I think that the best path to victory for Mansour here is kind of like feel out Dudushko, see what his plans are, how he moves, when he throws, and just try to time those takedowns. Get him down there. He's going to be able to control him, and then just start pounding on Dushko, because Dushko we've seen gas out as well. So if you implement that heavy wrestling game plan, I think you can wear on Dushko, eventually put him away. Yeah, I think Mansour will get this done by KO TKO. And this is a big pick, because I feel like I'm biased sometimes, but this is one of the things that proves that I'm not really that biased. Duško Todorovic is Serbian. I have a Macedonian background, and if you guys are unfamiliar with Macedonia, because it is a pretty small country, it is in southeastern Europe, something like that, I believe. And our neighboring country is Serbia, so they're like our cousins. But I'm not favoring Todorovic here, because I truly believe Mansour wins. Anyway, let's keep going. We actually have my glasses broke last weekend, so I was trying to play it off and have my lens stay in, but it fell because I had to itch my eye. We have like a short notice fight here. Alizio Zaleski was supposed to go up against Nicholas Dalby, where I was going to favor Nicholas Dalby, but in comes Zach Scroggin, another UFC debuter. Extremely short notice, 4 or 5 days. I watched some Zach Scroggin tape, and I wasn't very impressed. Yes, he is a tall, rangy guy. He uses that length in his striking. He's a very heavy kicker. He likes to chop away at those legs, body, and the head, and he kicks a lot, and he likes to stay at range. That's what he does, and he actually does that well. I will give him that, but Zaleski is just too dangerous, too experienced on the feet. I don't think Scroggins, is going to find much success in that department. Now, he can clinch up. He kind of has a somewhat of a ground game, but I don't see him finding much success in that regard against Zaleski. Yes, Zaleski is 37, but like the competition on the Scroggin side has not been impressive whatsoever. His most recent fight, 19-14, 40-year-old Zach Busha, who was 39 at the time. Josh Weston, 9-20, 42 years old now. Okay, he was 9-17 at the time. Josh Tully, who was 5-4, another 40-year-old man. Before that, Jeremiah Cutright, he was like 33 or 32 at the time. He's 7-6. Like, yeah, he's undefeated as an amateur and as a pro. Okay, but like I said, from what I saw, I don't think he's going to be able to hang with Zaleski. Zaleski's too much of a vet. He's too experienced. He's too dangerous, too good on the feet. And because this is like, maybe if Zach Scroggin showed like this, that he weaponizes his cardio like Dalby does, I could probably favor him, because Zaleski does tend to slow down. But man, Scroggin is taking this on short notice. How am I going to trust that he's staying prepared, in shape? Is he going to have that cardio? We don't know. And last time he fought was May 2024, so it's actually recent. So who knows? He could be ready. He could just absolutely obliterate Zaleski, but I doubt it. I'm going to go with Zaleski here. Let's keep rolling to the main card. I'm sure they're going to switch up the bout order because of the canceled fights, but make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and comment down below what you think of this UFC Vegas 100 card if you've made it this far. Starting off the main card, we got Luana Pinheiro taking on Jillian Robertson. Now, Pinheiro, even though she's got like that judo style where she's going to be able to mix in those clinch throws and trips and whatnot to get the fights to the ground, this is very much like a striker versus grappler matchup. Like I said, even though Pinheiro has that judo ability and that judo skill, I don't know if it's a judo background. It's got to be. Anyway, she's a come-forward striker. She likes to throw heavy, and she likes to find some success on the feet. She's probably going to be the better striker in this matchup. Jillian Robertson, we all know what kind of a fighter she is. She is a fantastic grappler who is very dangerous with her submission game. She has the most finishes in the strawweight division in UFC history. Okay? She's extremely dangerous on the ground, and she's done very well lately with being able to find those takedowns and controlling her opponents down on the mat and just literally destroying them. Against Michelle Waterson, destroyed her over 3 rounds. Okay? Polyana Viana finished her in the second round after taking her down and just finding success in that regard. Lost to Tabitha Ricci. I'm going to give it a pass. Tabitha's a very good prospect. Beat Piera Rodriguez, who was undefeated at the time and was a highly touted prospect. Same way, taking her down, beating her up. Like, this is just, she's improved so much with the ability to take her opponents down where she wants the fight to be. And a big thing, if Luana Pinheiro wasn't coming off of a submission loss to Angela Hill, dude, Angela Hill submitted her in her last fight. All right, Angela Hill, that was her first submission win ever. If Angela Hill, think of it, just to put this in perspective. Angela Hill is 17-14, 31 professional fights, and she has 6 finishes, 5 of them KO, and the only submission being Luana Pinheiro. If Angela Hill is submitting you, I am so sorry, but Jillian Roberts is also going to submit you. There is no doubt in my mind. Okay? All right? Let me see. Not having glasses on right now, or the one lens in, is freaking me out. All right. So actually, she has pretty decent takedown defense at 66%. I'm not gonna lie, but dude, there's no Jillian Robertson. No, Jillian Robertson is submitting Luana Pinheiro. I am really confident in that. And a little bit of a sneak peek again, what I've been trying to think of putting together. I want to put in a wild bet, like with a little bit of money. But I don't know what the odds are yet for these props, but I want to do Mansour by KO, Jillian Robertson by sub, and maybe like Damon Blackshear by decision, and have the trifecta, 3 different method of victories, parlay, something like that. That'd be pretty cool. But Jillian Robertson's getting the submission win. Let's keep rolling. We have Gerald Meerschaert taking on another UFC debuter, Reinier de Ridder. Or Renier de Ridder. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but this guy is a 2-division champion at ONE FC. And you guys want to talk about the grappling ability of Gerald Meerschaert? Dude, de Ridder is insane when it comes to the grappling. What I saw him, like, dude, his ability to take the fight to the mat is fantastic. So a lot of these grapplers struggle in that regard. They can't really implement their game plan because they don't have that wrestling to get the opponents down where they need them. De Ridder is not like that. This guy will try to get you down in any way possible. Clinch up, trips, throws, single legs. It doesn't matter. This guy is going to find a way to get you to the ground. He's also absolutely massive for the weight class. He's 6'4", and his only 2 losses are to an undefeated guy. It's the same dude, and he took both belts from him. So obviously that's not the greatest look. But other than that, he's undefeated at 17. And no, if he never fought that guy, I know that sounds stupid, because if every fighter just didn't fight the people that they lost to, they'd be undefeated. But you guys know what I'm saying. All right? I am going to favor de Ridder here, because this isn't short notice, even though it's a UFC debut, where there's a few of them that are. Okay? But Gerald Meerschaert, it's hard to pick him. It's just hard to pick him. You watch him get beat up every single fight, regardless of a win or a loss, and then he comes back because he's a dog. He's gritty. Those are the kind of guys you want to bet on. But dude, I can see Reinier de Ridder submitting Gerald Meerschaert. I actually can. I swear, I can. His ability to get the fights to the mat, keep his opponents down there, put them in terrible situations. His ability to get into full mount is insane. He's so slick on the ground. He's slick with the submissions. And I would argue that he's a better grappler than Meerschaert is. Meerschaert's also been submitted 8 times in his career. So it's not like this is going to be some crazy thing. Reinier de Ridder has, Reinier, whatever, 12 submission victories out of 17 wins. Dude, that's insane. Anyway, I just really like the grappling from Reiner de Ridder. Meerschaert probably will have the striking advantage. I just don't see this fight lasting very long on the feet. I will be picking de Ridder to win his UFC debut. Next up, we got Ricky Turcios going up against Bernardo Sopaj. Bernardo should win this. Ricky is extremely active, always in your face, high volume. The guy can mix in the grappling. He's got good grappling as well. He's just not very dangerous. The guy has negative punching power, and he's got 4 finishes in his career, 3 KOs, 1 sub. But like I said, he's got negative punching power. He doesn't have much pop in those punches. All right? And that's a big reason why I'm confident in Sopaj this time, because if you guys should know who Bernardo Sopaj is. He was on the wrong end of such a one of the most brutal KOs that I've seen. Vinicius Oliveira. Bernardo Sopaj took that fight on short notice. Oliveira is extremely dangerous, and Sopaj was actually having success against him on the feet and mixing in those takedowns. The problem is Sopaj took this on short notice. He's young. He wasn't conditioned properly. He wasn't prepared to fight that hard for the 15 minutes, and his legs got chopped up. He's like backing away. He's extremely tired, huffing, puffing, heart beating, and then he goes up against the cage and gets flying knee KO'd, slumped over, crumpled, and it wasn't a good look. That is a life-altering KO. So if he was going up against like a power puncher, I would be a little more worried. But like I said, Turcios doesn't have much power. I think Bernardo Sopaj is going to be the better striker. Turcios will probably have the higher activity, the higher volume, which will give the judges more to score. Nice. But Sopaj will most likely have the most or the more impactful moments on the feet. I can see him also being able to work in those takedowns. He does have to be careful, though, because Turcios has a kind of sneaky grappling game and could catch him in a submission. But other than that, I think Bernardo Sopaj gets this done fairly easily, honestly. I'm really high on Sopaj. I think he's a really great fighter. He just he saw an opportunity to get a UFC debut, and he took it, and probably didn't realize how dangerous of an opponent he was going up against. But he was doing fantastic in that fight. There's no denying that. Next up, we got Karolina Kowalkiewicz going up against Denise Gomes, and old lady Kowalkiewicz is I don't think she's going to be able to get this done. I think this is going to be a similar fight to her most recent one against Yasmin Lucindo, because Denise Gomes has a similar fight style. Lucindo is a come-forward striker that likes to throw heavy. Denise Gomes is also a come-forward striker that likes to throw heavy. Karolina's age really did show in her last fight against Lucindo. She was slow. She was taken advantage of in the wrestling. I'm pretty sure, and just isn't the more impactful. Like, yeah, she got taken down twice, got outstruck almost double, which is insane considering her 2 fights before that. She eclipsed almost 100. She almost had 140 strikes in a 3-round fight in back-to-back fights before that. So it's going to be interesting to see, because Denise Gomes doesn't really go for those takedowns. She will mix them in, but she hasn't really done so lately. In her UFC debut against Luke Boonmi, she was taken down 4 times and ultimately lost that fight. Came back, knocked out Bruna Brazil in the 2nd round, but she landed 3. She landed 3 takedowns in that fight, and then against Yasmin Haragi, that fight lasted 20 seconds. So no time for a takedown. She took Angela Hill down once. In her last fight, she got taken down 5 times and still came back to win that fight. And that's another big reason why I like Denise Gomes here, is because she is a dog. She's not going to let anything deter her from winning. She's okay with exchanging a shot to take a shot, and going up against somebody like Karolina, who is pushing 40. I think Denise lands the bigger shots. I think she mixes in those takedowns most likely to kind of take away from the volume of Karolina. And Kowalkiewicz is slowing down. You saw it in her last fight. I think Denise Gomes is going to be able to get this done. Her odds are crazy. I'm not going to be adding her in any parlays because I think she's like minus 500 or something. Insanity. Anyway, next up was supposed to be Cody Garbrandt versus Miles Johns, but before I started breaking down the fight, I get a notification on my Twitter, and it says Cody Garbrandt pulls out of the Miles Johns fight. I go to UFC Tapology, and it's still here as the co-main event. So I don't know what's going on. So I'm just going to make the pick. If it stays on the card, fantastic. If not, so be it. I was going to pick Miles Johns this whole time until today. If this fight happens, I am going to pick Cody Garbrandt. The reason being is, yes, we can't trust his chin in 2024. It's completely shot, this, that, and the other. Miles Johns can mix in the wrestling, and we saw Figgy find success there against Cody in his last time out. But Miles Johns fell in love with his striking because he got a few knockouts. He throws wild, and somebody like Cody Garbrandt, who is a technician on the feet, is not going to allow Miles Johns to just spam overhands and land them. He's going to slip out of the way. He's going to use that footwork, and honestly, he's going to be the far better technical striker. Miles Johns, like I mentioned, he fell in love with his hands, so even though he's had success mixing in the wrestling, you can't trust him to go into his fights with that all-in wrestling game plan, which he should do against somebody like Cody, who is miles ahead nice, on the feet. I don't think this fight's actually happening from what I hear, but if it does, Cody Garbrandt is going to be my pick, surprisingly, and Miles Johns does gas out. He's shown that before. Give me Cody Garbrandt. Main event of the evening, we got Neil Magny taking on Carlos Prates. I'm a huge Prates guy. I love Carlos Prates. Oh my God, I've messed up so many of these the visuals, man. I can't believe myself. 5'1" in the welterweight division. What an absolute joke. 6'1", Carlos Prates. Anyway, I'm going with Carlos Prates here. I've picked him in all 4 of his fights under the UFC umbrella. He took on a guy named Mitch Ramirez, put him away in the second round on the Contender Series, all right? Comes into the UFC and gets a performance bonus in all 3 of his fights. Trevin Giles was piecing him up with the jab, lots of activity, Prates doesn't care. Straight left hand, knocks Trevin Giles out in the second round, cold. Next fight, Charles Radtke, who's an absolute dog. Prates was able to find his range. Boom, knee to the body, slumps the man. I've never seen such a vicious knee to the liver before. Charles Radtke, as soon as it hit, this guy jumped in the air, held his stomach. He's like, yo, don't hit me anymore. That hurt. And then Li Jingliang, an unbreakable chin, and he put him away in the second round. This guy, his performance against Li Jingliang was beautiful, dude. He was in a flow state. It's like he everything. He was seeing everything. Slipping, boom, boom. He was finding Lee at the end of all of his shots. It was beautiful, and then put him away in that second round. Knocked him down like 3 times or something in that fight. The guy's awesome. The whole Fighting Nerds team is sick. Carlos Prates is on a 9-fight KO streak. I'm pretty sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, man, that's insane. How do you not pick him? Neil Magny, 37 years old. He's also been KO'd a few times in his career, 3 to be exact. He's coming off of one, pretty brutal one against Michael Morales, actually. One thing I will say, though, about Neil Magny is he is a UFC vet, and he is sneaky. His best work he does in the clinch. So if Carlos... Hold on, before I continue, this is also Prates' first main event, first 5-rounder. So the guy loves smoking darts. So it's going to be interesting to see how his cardio holds up if the fight does go long, because Neil Magny, as I was going to say before I branched off, he finds a lot of his success in the clinching. He clinches his opponents, wears them down, holds them up against the cage, works them a little bit. If he does that to Prates, he's going to find some success. Prates will probably slow down. I just don't see it happening. I think even though Neil Magny is the rangier guy, I don't think it's going to matter. Prates is going to be faster. He's going to be in and out. He's going to find his mark. He's an accurate striker. He's a sniper, if you will. But yeah, one thing I will say about Magny, though, his last 2 losses are to undefeated prospects in Michael Morales and Ian Gary. His loss before that was Gilbert Burns, okay, who is an absolute stud UFC vet. And then his loss before that was Shavkat Rakhmonov, who is also an undefeated prospect. In between, he has 3 wins against D-Rod, Phil Rowe, and Mike Malott. So the guy's sneaky good. Carlos Prates is just the man. He's like minus 700 right now. So I don't know if he's going to be included in my most confidence picked parlay because of the odds being so wide. But we'll see. If you guys want to know what it's going to be, follow me on TWIT, Twitter. I was just trying to rhyme. Limpy bets 2 Ys at the end of Limpy, so you guys can get those confidence levels. My actual bets, my most confident picks parlay that's been absolutely killing it. But Carlos Prates is going to be my pick. Now, before we go, let's run through all the picks like we always like to do. Starting off the card, I'm going to go with the dog, Antonio Trocoli, Cortavius Romious, Claudius Sygula, Damon Blackshear, Charles Radtke, Mansour Abdul-Malik, Elizio Zaleski, Jillian Robertson, Reiner de Ritter, Bernardo Sopaj, Denisi Gomes, Cody Garbrandt if he's still fighting, and Carlos Prates. Thank you guys so much for watching another UFC breakdown and predictions video. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and comment down below your thoughts on this Apex Century Mark UFC Vegas 100. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.